want to ask you a question. What is the first thing you turn to in the morning and the last thing you turn to before you go to sleep? I bet it's not your spouse. We are addicted to these phones. And what I'm here to talk about is we hear a lot of things about technology that can cause us to be addicted or be using it in ways that drives us away from each other. But today what I'm going to talk to you about is the gift of technology, of how if we implement it in the right ways, in ethical ways, that we can actually create greater human connection. Now, there are many people out there, all sorts of industries, that are being disrupted by technology today. It's happening in our workplaces. It creates a lot of fear. However, there's one true story about all disruption is that we cannot stop change, that it will happen. I'm going to start off showing you a story about a company that tried to stop change.
In business, there will always be disruption. Your success depends on how you manage it. And no business is immune. Kodak, founded in 1888, for a century, it dominates film and camera sales. At its peak in 1976, Kodak claims 90% of film sales and 85% of camera sales in the US. Just 12 months earlier, it invents the digital camera, the event that would mark the demise of this hugely successful business. For fear of cannibalizing film sales, Kodak is reluctant to pursue filmless photography. 1988, Fuji market the first consumer all-digital camera. 2000, the first camera phone is sold. 2004, photo sharing site Flickr is launched. 2006, camera phones outsell cameras. 2012, Kodak files for bankruptcy.
Now we can stick our heels in the sand and try to prevent these things from happening, but change just doesn't stop in our lives. This is the way history goes. So what we're going to talk about today is how we take this journey to be able to utilize technology for its benefits and create greater human connection. I've created a methodology based on my CPA side and my yogi side called the B3 method. And I am an accountant, so at the end of the day, it is going to be a formula. So it's business plus balance equals bliss. But the important part of when we implement technology into our businesses is that we don't just look at technology and slam it in, that in parallel, we're thinking about how do we create a different type of experience with our employees and our customers because of the technology we implement, and we do it in parallel. So the business side of this is the technology disruption that is happening in our lives and how we deal with it. The balance side is then at the same time, how do we create an implementation plan as we're putting the technology in to create mindfulness and collaboration at the same time? In order to create bliss, and in yoga, the Sanskrit word for that is Satchinanda. And that means that we exist, that we create happiness. And with happiness, that is a continual journey, and we have to continually evolve to get there. So this is our roadmap, and we're going to start with the business side of this and the technology disruption that is happening. But what I want you to think about is how you can use this technology disruption to change your workplace in a positive way. So we hear all this terminology out there, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and don't even realize that we're experiencing it in our lives today. Machine learning is when we're on Hulu and we watch something and then it recommends the next thing to watch. Or when we go on Facebook and upload a picture and it already knows who that person is. Or when we pull up a mapping software and it gives us the time to get there and the optimum routes. That is the machine learning, and these are delightful moments. These aren't bad things that technology is creating for us. It's actually saving us time so that we're able to do the things that we want to do. Now, technology is creating things for us to be able to get to customers or communities that we've never been able to tap into before. Let's watch what Facebook is doing.
Peter Cottle, March 6th at 4:22 p.m. We finally made it. Photo. Image may contain 2 people, smiling, sunglasses, sky, outdoor, water. Astha Agrawal and 29 others reacted. Facebook's mission is to connect the world. And that goes for everyone.
Sometimes we don't step back and think about all the communities we're not able to touch, to bring into our workplaces. And if we can use technology to create a different experience, and if we create Facebook ads and now we can get to the blind, how do we use that technology to our advantage? The second piece of this is deep learning. And what deep learning is, it actually mimics our brain. Our brain has neural pathways, and that is how we learn. And they crisscross in our brain, and we take in images and different languages and light and sound and be able to interpret it. What deep learning is artificial neural networks. And it mimics our brain to take in different stimulus. And an example of this is Google Translate, where we can hold our phone over an image. It interprets the image, it interprets the language that it's in, and then translates it to our language. Now, let me tell you something. I own a yoga studio. That's the other side of me. And we run a teacher training program in our yoga studio. This technology is helping me be able to get to students that we've never been able to get to before. There is actually a big Japanese population in Cincinnati, Ohio. And they come in and move back out to Japan after a 3-year rotation. In Japan, being a yoga teacher is a lucrative career. Because of Google Translate, I now have yoga teacher training students that only speak Japanese that are going through teacher training. Those are customers that I could have never been able to reach before. Now, this is the stuff that gets me really excited, and it's robotics. So when you think about how this can actually change your workplace, what I'm going to show you here is drones. And what drones do, that we can actually take this technology in jobs that are unsafe in our workplaces and be able to do inventory counts. Where in this warehouse before, you had to be on high ladders, you had to have someone entrust that that human was capturing all of this information, or finding those damaged goods. Drones are also being used in agriculture, where it's going across acres and acres of land to know what needs to be irrigated, where it used to take days for people to drive around to figure that out. How do we actually take advantage that's in our workplaces to not only make us more efficient, but then use our human side for a better purpose? So let's talk about this. Now that we have this technology disruption, we don't want to just throw the technology into a workplace. We want to think about the human experience at the same time. And what happens with technology disruption is fear and uncertainty. So, like you heard, I was a TEDx speaker. The night that I was a TEDx speaker, there was another TEDx speaker that was 13 years old that had been hired by IBM Watson to program their machine in order to read brain waves of special needs people that have never been able to answer for themselves. It was able to be programmed to be able to understand whether someone could say yes, no, or maybe. Well, a 23-year-old woman was able to answer for herself for the first time, and her mother had taken care of her her entire life. But what happened during this experience, when this woman felt independence for the first time, the mother started feeling displaced. And it's a result that we wouldn't think would happen. So when we put in this technology, we need to think about what is the experience people are feeling so that we take those inputs in and make sure we're designing that technology, and that is mindfulness. That is the outside of awareness of what people experience in the workplace, the fear that they have, so that we can listen, hear it, and then incorporate it into our workplace so that they find fun and play and creativity when they put this into place. We need to disconnect from the technology. So if we put technology in place that only creates more stress in the workplace, then we're not doing anyone any good. So we need to think about, how do we put parameters in to make sure that people are not addicted? I know I used to be joked with that I would reply faster than someone sent an email. And it's important that we don't require people to be on their phones all the time, because what happens with this is we create an experience for others that they're not important. Whether we intend to or not, when we're speaking with someone and that whole time we say, hold on just a minute, let me check that. Let me just take this quick call. What is the experience that we're giving that customer, that employee, that we need to think about how we adjust our time on technology versus not technology. So I have already put the benefits of automation into a yoga studio that is a very traditional place that's typically very manual. We are on all Google Documents. We are on cloud POS software. Everything we do is automated. It allows me to travel, but it also allows for my staff to make sure when a client walks in the door from the front desk person, they're ready for what that person needs. That no one's trying to figure out what handed off from one front desk person to the other. We've been able to create different client experiences because of the automation. It's freed up our time, where we have something called the 100 Ohm Club, where we actually engage our customers to keep coming back and celebrating and doing fun that we would never have time for did we not have this technology in place. So while we're putting this journey in place, think about the parameters you're putting in for tech use and the communication. That you're making sure that you're telling people, even if you can work 24/7, that that's not a requirement. That you set those expectations so someone doesn't create more stress as you're putting that in, which creates bliss, our greater human connection. So how do we use this to our advantage? We take things that are our human tools into the workplace so that we can have a better experience. So we've talked about mindfulness. One of the things that you may see on your table is a 2-minute timer. We often take stressful things from one experience into another at work. If we take 2 minutes in our day and actually set an alarm, shut our eyes and not peek, we can reset our central nervous system. How can we put those parameters in our day to allow people to reset and be more present and make sure they're in the right experience with each other? The other thing I've given you is a mantra. Mantras are a way to shift our energy and make sure that we set an intention for our day of how we want to show up. And for me, I'm a musician, also as a hobby, and there's little notes on music, for those of you that are a musician, that are called grace notes. And these grace notes, when you're a musician, you play them really fast. But if you don't play these grace notes, the music sounds completely different. So I use that mantra, which I'm gifting you today, to remember those grace notes in your day, that you don't miss the most important business ideas or feelings or emotions that are going on in the workplace, so that you create that better human connection. Now, with our phones, hide them. If you are in a meeting, make sure that they're not up on the desk. You can turn them to grayscale so that they don't alert you to keep looking at them. We look at our phones 150 times a day, which equates to 2.5 hours a day or 38 days a year. If we can start figuring out in our workplace to eliminate that time on our phones, what can we eliminate with overtime as well? And be able to spend more time together. We can set do not disturb on our phone so that we aren't alerted, and we make sure that person we're meeting with knows that they're important. And in order to do this, we need to go through this journey. We need to make sure we have a roadmap, that we don't just put in technology for technology's sake, but we create a roadmap of the technology that we want to put in for the benefits of our business and our customers, but also the experience we want to create at the same time. Now, the research on our brain is it takes 30 days to create a habit. Another thing that you have on your table is a 30-day challenge journal. What happens is that as adults, it's very hard for us to make sure that we stay on this path and we implement things the way we want to. So we have to stay accountable, and by journaling, it can help you. That each day you say, what did I like about it? What didn't I like about it? And what am I going to do different tomorrow? If we put that into our workplaces and challenge our teams to offer that up as we're putting in the technology, we might get new information that we could have never imagined as we create this new experience. So what I want you to remember is that people may not remember exactly what you said or what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel. Thank you very much.